And
Hello, everyone. Hi.
we are very excited to Zoom. I would say that I have been over the moon excited about it this week. It's funny. You can. My name is Haley. I am the person here at Learn Fort Langley, setting awesome, fun stuff up for you. But you did not come here to see me today. You came to see Rachel and the HR MacMillan Space Centre. So I will pass it over to Rachel, and then at the end, I will give you some other ways that you can get involved with Learn Fort Langley this week. Thank you, Rachel.
So I am the astronomer at the HR MacMillan Space Center, and today I'm going to take you on a really cool tour of our solar system. So while I'm just going to share my screen here, you should be seeing what looks like an Earth. And if you do see an Earth on your screen, can you put your hands on your head for me, just like this? Oh, perfect. Great. Awesome. So just before we get started, this is going to be more of an interactive talk. So I'm going to ask you questions throughout, and I'll ask you to do different gestures, just like putting your hands on your head or touching your nose, just because I can't hear you, but I can see you, so I can see your responses. So let's start with our tour on the solar system. And we're going to start with somewhere a little bit familiar, and that's right here on Earth, but not just on Earth. We're going to be in the backyard of the Space Center. And it looks a little bit like this. And you'll be able to see the HR MacMillan Space Center right here, down at the bottom. Now, for a long time, people, not just astronomers, have been gazing up at the nighttime sky. And they asked questions like, are we alone in space? And where is Earth in space? Now, here's a question for you, the first question of the day. Have any of you ever been stargazing, maybe with your family in a backyard, a park, maybe with a telescope or binoculars? And if you have, put your hand up. I have. I like to go most weekends and go out and look at the stars. You'll often find me walking home with my head looking up at the stars, not paying attention to where I'm going, just because I love it so much. Now, by observing our night sky and asking questions, astronomers figured out that our planet Earth is just one of 8 planets in our solar system. The solar system is made up of the sun and smaller objects that move around it, like planets, asteroids, and even comets. Now, nearest to the sun are the 4 rocky planets, and that's Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. Now, let's take a closer look at some of these planets, and we'll start with the smallest one of them all, and that's Mercury. Now, a year on Mercury only lasts 88 Earth days. So if you lived on this planet, you would celebrate your birthday every 3 months. And that's a little bit dark, so let us brighten up our planet a little bit. And then there's Mercury. Now, it's a simple planet. It doesn't have any moons or an atmosphere, and it's covered in craters, so it looks a little bit like our moon. And what's weird about Mercury is that even though it's the closest planet to our sun, and our sun provides all the heat and natural light to our planets, it's actually not the hottest planet. The hottest planet in our solar system, at a whopping 462 degrees Celsius, is the neighboring planet to Mercury, and that is Venus. And we can jump there right now. So here's Venus. Let's spin it around so we can see the lovely features. Now, it's a little smaller than Earth, but I quite like Venus because it's kind of a quirky planet. It's a little bit hotter than Mercury because it has a really thick atmosphere. That's this kind of dusty, hazy stuff that you see on the surface. And all of those thick clouds trap heat in, and it makes Venus really, really hot, almost like putting on a lot of sweaters in the wintertime. Now, Venus is also a really active planet, and that's because it's covered in mountains and over 1,000 volcanoes, just like this one. And like the planet Uranus, it also spins in the opposite direction to most other planets. So it spins oppositely to Earth. Now, if Venus, the hottest planet, has a surface that's covered in volcanoes, then I wonder what the surface of the sun looks like. So let's head there. Let's head to our local star, the sun. Here it is. Now, what's really cool about the sun is that recently astronomers used a really fancy telescope to take really detailed observations of the sun's surface. And I can show you with a short video what that looked like. It's really, really, really cool. So you can see this is the surface of the sun. This is the highest detail, the highest resolution we've ever taken. And each one of these weird circles here, these cell-like structures, Those are the size of Texas. So our sun is really, really massive. And it's really cool that we're able to see it with such high detail. Now, another question that I have is, well, what does a surface of a planet that's further away from the sun than Earth look like? And we can travel to a planet just like that. Now, 1 year on this planet is almost twice as long as a year on Earth. There were once signs of ancient floods on its surface, but now water mostly exists in ice and in thin clouds. It's sometimes called the red planet or the sister planet of Earth. Now, do any of you know what planet this is? And if you do, you can touch your head. And if you don't, touch your nose. Let's see. Oh, wow, I'm pretty sure, I think everyone got it. And of course, it is Mars, the red planet. And just beyond Mars is something called the asteroid belt. Now, you've probably heard of the asteroid belt before. It happens a lot in movies like Star Wars or Guardians of the Galaxies. And the asteroid belt is this region that is right here in red that's home to millions of rocky objects. And you can see all of those objects as little red dots here. Now, these rocks or these dots are leftover Lego building blocks from the formation of our solar system. And that happened a really, really long time ago. It happened 4.5 billion years ago. Now, if we were actually to pilot a little spaceship from Earth and fly out into the asteroid belt, we wouldn't see them all clumped together. They would actually be really, really spread out and far apart. But you're probably used to seeing people like Han Solo from Star Wars flying in a spaceship and dodging through in and out of these massive rocks. Now, on the far side of the asteroid belt, so on the other side, we're looking at these groups of planets here now, are the 4 icy gas giants. And we call these the outer planets just because they're a little bit farther than our inner ones were from the sun. And these outer planets, these outer gas giants, are Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. And these planets are all much bigger than Earth, but they're really, really light, actually. And in fact, if we could build a bathtub that was big enough to hold Saturn, Saturn would float in the bathtub. And all of these planets are made mostly of hydrogen, which is something that makes up part of water, and helium, which is the stuff that makes balloons float. Now, of the outer gas giants, the first one I'd like to go to, even though it's not next in order, the next one in order is Jupiter, but it is my favorite one. So we're going to go to Saturn because it's my favorite planet, or my favorite planet. So now I'm wondering if Saturn is anyone else's favorite planet. And if it is, just show me a peace sign if Saturn is your favorite planet. Oh, yay. Oh, I love Saturn. I really love all the planets, but Saturn really is my favorite one because it's got these spectacular rings. Now, Saturn isn't the only one to have rings. Actually, all of these outer gas giants do. And they look a little bit like this. So even though Saturn is most well known for its rings, and they probably are the most spectacular, the most beautiful, all of the outer gas giants do have ring systems. Now, the rings that we see are made of groups of tiny circles or ringlets like these that surround Saturn. But the question is, what are they made of? Well, we can take a closer look. They're really made of chunks of ice and rock that come in all shapes and sizes. Some of them are as small as dust grains, and others are the size of houses, and even some the size of mountains. And what I also love about Saturn, it's got this really, really cool storm at the top. It's right here. It's got 6 sides to the storm, and I can even turn on the northern lights to make that a little bit more clear. So it's really, really cool that it's got this massive, weirdly shaped storm on its surface. Now let's jump to my next favorite planet. And you might recognize it because it is quite massive. If Jupiter is your favorite planet, give me a wave. I also love Jupiter. There's a lot going on Jupiter. The biggest thing that it has is this great red spot, and we'll see it turning around as Jupiter rotates. Now, Jupiter is made of all the same stuff as the star, but believe it or not, it just never got big enough to start burning in its core. And it's covered in swirling cloud stripes, and the Great Red Spot. Now, the Great Red Spot is so huge that we could fit 2 to 3 Earths inside of it. And here I can pull up a close-up of what the Great Red Spot looks like. It's massive, it's fantastic, and it's been going on for hundreds of years. Now, Jupiter also has a bunch of moons. It actually has 79. But even though 79 seems like a really big number, it's actually less than the number of moons that Saturn has. So Saturn used to have less moons than Jupiter, but then scientists found 20 new moons orbiting Saturn late last year, and that brought its total to 82. So here I'm showing you all of Jupiter's moons in purple as they're orbiting around the planet. Now, the last planet I want to visit is also the last of the planets in our solar system, and it's really similar to the second last planet, Uranus. So the planet that we're going to go to right now is called Neptune. And we'll spin it around so you can see all the stuff that's going on Neptune's surface. Now, both Uranus and Neptune are made of water and ammonia, which is the stuff in pee, and also methane, the stuff that's in cow farts. So both Uranus and Neptune aren't exactly the nicest smelling planets in our solar system, but they're both this really lovely shade of bright blue. Now, Neptune is kind of dark, it's really cold, and it's really windy. You can see that it's rotating really, really fast. And these streaks of white are these clouds that are racing across its surface. And what's really cool is that higher up in these clouds, these winds can travel really fast, and they can actually travel faster than the speed of sound. So that's faster than you can hear me talking to you right now. And now we end our virtual tour back here at home at Earth. And I want to talk a little bit about Earth because it's such a special planet. It's kind of a weird planet because it's all covered in water. It really is an ocean planet. But not only that, it's also the only place that we've found life. Life like you and I, us humans, or like your neighbor's dog. And Earth has one moon that travels around it, and we can fly there. And over 50 years ago, humans made this same journey that we're making now, flying from the Earth to the moon, and they did this on the Apollo missions. And we're even planning to send humans back to the moon in a few years. So I'm wondering if any of you would be a future astronaut and would love to go to the moon. And if you would, put both your hands up in the air, because just like me, I would love to go to the moon. I would love to see what it looks like. Maybe you guys could all join me going to the moon in a few years' time when NASA goes. That would be pretty cool. But even though we've been to the moon before, a lot of people still have a few misunderstandings when it comes to the moon. So I'm thinking that we could end our talk with a little game. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you some facts about the moon, and you can decide if you think it's true or not. And if you think it's true, give me a big thumbs up. And if you think it's false, you give me a thumbs down. Okay? So let's start with the first fact. The moon is bright because it reflects light from the sun. What do you guys think? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Ooh, I'm seeing a lot of thumbs up. Some thumbs down, yeah. Okay, and all the votes are in. So the moon, that is actually true. So that's a big thumbs up. The moon does reflect light from the sun, just like our planets do. Okay, so the next fact. The phases of the moon are caused by Earth's shadow. So give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. What do you think? Oh, we got a lot of mixes. All right, all votes are in. So this one is actually a thumbs down. So our perspective of the moon and how much sunlight is hitting it, or what we call phases, it changes as it orbits the Earth, because the moon is rotating and it's also spinning about its axis, and it's also traveling around our Earth. Okay, let's do a few more. The moon has less gravity than Earth. So give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Oh, this is pretty quick. So most of you guys said yes, that is true. Yep, the moon does have less gravity than Earth. It has a fraction of the gravity it does. It's actually 1/6 the gravity that we have here on Earth. And then that brings us to the last fact of the day. So this is it. The moon can only be seen at night. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down. The moon can only be seen at night. Oh, it looks like we have a lot of thumbs down. And that's perfect because that is false. That's a big thumbs down. We actually do see the moon a lot during the day. And the only phases that we can't really see during the day are a full moon, which we only see at night, and also the new moon, which we can't see from Earth at all. So let me bring us back to Earth. And I made the moon really big in the nighttime sky, and it's right here up at the top. So if you don't believe me that the moon can be seen during the day, I really encourage you to go outside today because the moon will be up after 12. So I really encourage you to go outside during the day. It's really lovely outside. The sun is out, but to go outside between 12 and 2 and go and see if you can see the moon during the daytime. And we can see the moon during the day for the same reason that we can see it at night. And that's because the surface of the moon has this white material that reflects a lot of the sun's light back into our eyes. And that's the reason why we can see it, especially during the night, but also sometimes during the day. And so that brings me to the end of our talk. And Haley, I'm going to throw it back to you. Perfect.
Thank you very much, Rachel. That was all super interesting. I love the videos that we got to watch too. So are we ready for some question and answer time?
Absolutely.
All right, so boys and girls, if you have a question for Rachel, there's two ways that you can ask the question. One is you can put up your hand and wait patiently for her to get to you. Or if you are able to type or have an adult with you who can type for you, you can type your question into the chat box. Now, there are about 30 different families in this conversation right now. So it's not possible that Rachel will get to every single one, but she will do her very best. And then afterwards, we'll tell you some other ways that you can get your questions answered by Rachel. Sound good? So put up your hand if you have a question. Rachel, do you want me to call on them or would you like to call on them?
Sure, you can call on them. That would be helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Let's start with Whitney. Whitney, what is your question?
Are you in a spaceship?
I'm not right now, but I would love to be in a spaceship. Right now I have a background of Earth as seen from the International Space Station. So kind of like a spaceship, but unfortunately I am here on Earth in my room.
All right, I see Austin and then Riley. I see some other hands too, but I'll do Austin and then Riley for now. Austin.
How is the moon made?
Ooh, that's a great question. So we're not 100% sure, but our best guess is that a really, really big hunk of rock, like kind of like the size of Mars, smacked into our Earth and then knocked off our moon. And then that was the result. Our moon is just this massive rock that got knocked off by a Mars-sized rock.
Riley, and then Isla, you'll be next.
So, how much stars are there in the galaxy? All the galaxies in one, how much stars are there?
That's a great question. So in our galaxy, our Milky Way galaxy, the one that we live in, there are a few 100 billion stars, but that's just one galaxy. And there are so many other galaxies out there. So you can imagine that the number of stars in our universe, have you ever been to a beach before? You felt the grains of sand between your toes as you're walking along the beach. If you think of the number of grains of sand on all the beaches in the world, there are more stars out there than grains of sand, which is so crazy.
My daddy's favorite movie is Star Wars.
Oh my goodness, my dad's favorite movie is Star Wars too. It's a good film.
That's a good one to have if we're talking about the Space Center. That's a pretty good connection, Isla. Good job. I said Isla, Michaela, then Victoria. Might have been the other way around, but Michaela, what is your question, kiddo?
How big is the Earth?
How big is the Earth? It's around the same size as Mars. It's a little bit bigger than the other planets like Mercury and Venus. So it's a little bit smaller than the really, really big ones that are on the outside.
Awesome. Victoria, what is your question?
My question is, well, I kind of got two, but they're very small. One, are you an astronaut?
No, not quite. I really would love to be, but I'm not there yet. I just finished school, so I just finished university, And right now I'm just an astronomer, but one day I hope to be an astronaut. That would be pretty cool. What's your second question?
It's not really a question, it's just a
Oh,
comment.
sure.
This is very interesting.
Oh, I think it's interesting too. Oh.
Awesome.
How does the sun have so much lava?
How does it have so much lava? Well, the sun is made out of the two things I said before. So hydrogen, the stuff that's in water, and helium, the stuff that makes things float. And the sun is so hot that it can actually burn that stuff, which is kind of weird because it's a gas, but it can actually burn it. And that's what makes it look kind of like lava, even though it's not really like lava that you'd see from volcanoes, like on the surface of Venus.
Does anyone else have a question? So Lucas, Mal, and then the Craigs.
How hot is the sun?
How hot is it? It's very, very hot. It's much hotter than your oven at home. It's actually around 15 million degrees. And remember I told you that Venus was only 400 degrees Celsius? It's 15 million. It's very, very, very hot, which is why you can feel the heat, the summer heat when you go outside on your face and you get sunburns from being outside for too long, even though the sun is really, really far away. That's because it's so, so hot.
Thank you. Mile, what is your question in your Monster Jams?
Why is there so many planets in space?
Why is there so many? I love your pajamas, by the way. When the solar system formed, so that's our sun and all the planets and all the other stuff that I showed you, it kind of formed like a pancake. And in that pancake of stuff, there was a lot of small rocks, and those small rocks banged together and made bigger and bigger rocks. And eventually those rocks got bigger and made planets. And so it just so happens that a lot of these rocks smashed together and made planets.
Awesome. Craigs.
Are stars big or not?
Are stars big? Yes. So stars are really, really massive. There's a really cool video that I encourage. Maybe the parents can help the kids find it. It's called Scale of the Stars. And it shows the scale of the Earth. It looks like a dot. And then it shows our sun. And our sun is actually pretty small compared to all the other stars out there. And it's really, really cool. So it's even though it's the biggest thing in our solar system, it's actually really small compared to other things in the universe.
Charlotte, what's your question, kiddo?
Does anybody else live on other planets?
Does anybody else live on other planets? Not people yet, but we do have rovers that live on Mars. There's a rover named Curiosity on Mars, and Curiosity landed actually on my birthday on Mars. So Curiosity sings happy birthday to itself every year on Mars.
Awesome. So Natalia, let me unmute you. There you go.
What's your job?
What's my job? So I used to be a student, and now I work as an astronomer. So what I do is I help with some of the programming and events, like doing things like this, and teaching people about astronomy. But I also spend my time looking at objects in the nighttime sky, because that's what an astronomer does. We look up at the night sky and we try to study objects that are in the night sky and really, really far away. And we do that using telescopes because they are so far away.